welcome to the Education System Reboot channel. Today I want to talk about two things that happen on the same day. They're kind of differing experiences, and yet everything was connected. So this is entitled Everything is Connected. So I went to church on Sunday, and I ended up having a conversation about baseball. One of the people there was wearing a Cardinal shirt, and we just talked about baseball, and it ended up being a really productive conversation about systems and how baseball, in my opinion, but hopefully as I share this, maybe in other people's opinion, is the best metaphor for developing yourself as a person. And so we went into this long, just really deep, in-depth discussion about, why baseball is kind of, America's pastime, number one, why I think it represents the American values better than any other sport. Because again, you have to develop the whole player. You can't have one person carry a team. There's tons of little skills that have to be developed, and you have to maintain them all the time. And so I was connecting that to, education and how it's the little things, right? It's the habits you develop. You're only strong as your weakest link is another way to think about it. But I think it's like all the small things count over time, and it's not just developing the pure muscle of athleticism, although you have to be athletic, but you have to develop the mind mentally. It's it's the kind of consistent effort over time that I'm always talking about. And I love sports in general. Like, I love sports. I find them to be fascinating. I love the mental game of most sports, football, but for me, baseball more than any just illustrates how you have to develop yourself in all areas, not just for yourself, but for your team. And so, again, if there's a clearer or better analogy of what should be trying to do in the education system, I just think baseball's it. And so there was that. And then I went throughout the day and I taught some lessons, and my lessons were good, and I gave lots of insights. And then I just was, kind of trying to relax the rest of the day. And I knew football was on. And so I went to a place that I usually go for food and drink and beers. And just sat at the bar and was watching some stuff. But I'd been there enough that I'm kind of like a regular on Sundays. It's kind of like something I do most days. But what I was observing was there was a lot of tension in the air. And I guess all these little things had happened. Some were out of their control, but others were just, this idea of a lot of people not carrying their weight. And we just had this conversation with the person from church about baseball. And then I was thinking about, the education system in general and the lowering of standards in general. And this is where I feel like everything is connected, and honestly, everything is connected through the education system. So as we lower our standards, as we allow more and more people to cut corners, as we don't hold kids accountable to the small things, right? Like turning something in on time, like they start getting this mindset of, well, that's how everything is in life. And we've always joked, at least in a lot of or at least I was going to say in the staff room, where we kind of laugh, is like, well, when the real world hits them, they'll finally learn. But then I thought, well, if we keep enabling or keep sending this message that it's okay not to do your work, it's okay not to come prepared, it's okay that your actions don't have consequences, it's to teach kids that everything they do has a consequence. I'm fond of saying, like, everything you do affects someone else, even if it's just future you, right? If you make the decision today not to work, future you is now being involved. You are affecting other people. And then if you decide to talk or do other things, you're now affecting those around you to not being able to learn. And it's hard. Kids today, it's difficult. I won't lie to you. And some days I'm very frustrated with the lack of accountability in students. But then I realize it's like, because everything's connected, this is what's happening out in society. And as I watched, I could observe the frustration in the waiters. I could observe the frustration that they were running out of things. There was bad communication from the top down. Like, it just reminded me that it's like, the little things matter. And yet it probably starts with us in the education system getting on the same page about standards, and not I want to be clear, not academic standards per se. I'm just talking about the standards of how you act, right? And being consistent about that. And again, and this is a side note that's, just me personally, but I've noticed, at least at my school, I've always thought of myself as a high school band director mindset. And yet for some reason, at least in my district, because I do 6 through 12, the middle school kids just love me. They absolutely love me. Now, they drive me nuts. I mean, they just do, partly because they're seem incapable of, sitting still and doing what they need to do. But then I also realized, well, but they're probably not hearing the type of message that I send from anyone else. So then I realized that my role as, quote, a middle school teacher and mentor is so important. And because I'm starting to realize how important that is, I'm realizing that it's more and more important that I hold them accountable, that I share my ideas, that I model what I'm talking about. That, if I'm talking about organization, like I show them my calendar sometimes. I show them systems to help them hopefully be better just as a person long term. I engage in rants and motivational speeches, on the fly, on the cuff. And I'm able to do that, I think, more because I have good routines underneath. And it's like preparation relieves pressure, right? The ability to be prepared. Well, if you're not prepared through education for the real world, you're always going to be anxious. You're always going to be anxiety ridden. You're always going to be struggling to keep up. And so our ultimate goal is to prepare students for life after high school. Some people that means college. Some people that just means being a good person. I mean, just, do you have character? Do you try to cut corners, or do you do what's required of you even when it's difficult, right? And again, so this idea was, I just had this amazing, weird experience through different conversations where it's like everything is connected by something. I think everything's connected by systems. I think everything can be broken down into some sort of system. So that's my way of saying it. But it was just a very interesting day where I kept connecting dots, and I kept seeing how there's a metaphor in baseball for the education system. There's a metaphor for baseball, how to live a good, productive life. There's me seeing these people struggling at their job, on this particular day. And I'm thinking, the education system is sort of at fault for that. So we're connected. So if we don't start holding kids accountable, if we don't elevate the standards of just good, the small things, right? The organizational skills, the kindness skills, the overcoming adversity, the idea of teaching them that in education, it's a safe space to fail, right? And then to learn from that failure and to build resilience and to build grit. But see, I see it when I go to these other places. People are frustrated. People don't know how to communicate, how to humble themselves. It's everyone else's fault, not mine. Like taking ownership. And so anyway, long story short, wrapping it up here, if we stop and just reflect on the lessons that we can learn from every situation, or just connect dots. Why do good movies? Why do we enjoy certain movies? Because they connect to our humanness. They connect to experiences we've had, and that again is connection. They might be a story of overcoming obstacles, and we can relate to that because we know that number one, either we've done it so we relate, or it inspires us to say, okay, I can do better. Like maybe 9 times out of 10 when there's something difficult, we fold like origami, but we watch this inspiring movie, and maybe the next time we go, okay, I'm gonna try a little harder. But that's the human condition. That is the tie that binds us, that connects us all, is that we're all human beings and we all struggle with something in life. And yet the true measure of our character, the true measure of who we are as a person, is how we handle those things. And so again, I hope this all makes sense. It was a total rant off the cuff, but it was just something that I wanted to make sure that I got down, because I just think, I really just feel like everything is connected. And I'm so amazed at how every day some experiences that I have ties into something else. It also allows me to relate to students that I might not normally be able to relate to, because I can say to them, hey, we're all connected. Everything's connected. And I could do a little short, like, hey, have you thought about this? It's connected to this. And I can demonstrate that there's so many things we can learn from if we just pause, listen, observe, critically think. But again, those are education system skills. We have to teach that. And again, sometimes it's the smallest step. It's like, just get out the piece of paper. Just write one sentence. Hey, I'm proud of you for writing one sentence. Next time, let's try 2. Right? You just incremental steps. And before you know it, as long as you are consistently doing a little bit better than the time before, you can it's exponential growth. You could open up the world to yourself. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, so with that being said, as always, consistent effort over time equals success.